Okay, welcome everybody, welcome back to another tutorial. This time we are looking at standard terminal arrival routes, so also known as stars, and we're looking at how to fly them. So we just did a video on SIDs, standard instrument departures. Now we're looking at stars, and we're going to do one into Heathrow. So if we bring up the chart here, you can see this is a Bovington and Bovna arrivals, and we are going to do the Bovington 4 Alpha into Heathrow. So we're going to come inbound, we're going to intercept, if I can remember how to click the right buttons, we're going to intercept this arrival. So at the minute we're just intercepting the 140 radial from Honolly. So you can see that the computer's just doing this now, and then we're going to talk through the rest of the star itself. So we're at 20,000 feet. That's because it says here expect to be flight level 200 by Tobit. So routing at the minute just towards Honolly, and then we're going to route towards outbound from Honolly, and we're going to route outbound on this 140 radial to Tobit. We're going to be flight level 200 by there, and then we'll start our descent. We'll imagine that air traffic control have given us descent, and we'll start our way down. We'll be flight level 150 by Soppit, and then we'll be doing 250 knots, which we'll already be doing anyway because we're in TBM 930, which is a bit slower than a jet, but we'll be doing 250 knots by Westcott, and then we'll go outbound from Westcott, and we'll pick up the 117 inbound to Bovington, which will be on the 297 radial. And then whenever we get to Bovington, we'll do a quick couple of holding patterns, introduce holding patterns. So this will be one of the holding patterns for the arrivals into Heathrow. So this is where you'd go into the holding pattern, go around in circles for a bit, and eventually air traffic control would take you off the holding pattern out of the stack of planes that they have, and bring you in for the approach on radar vectors. So we're going to do all that with the absence of air traffic control, and yeah, so that's what we're going to do. There's a few notes and stuff about max holding speeds, whatever. So we'll do 220 knots when we get to Bovington, which is fairly standard, and we'll also go down to 7,000 feet, which you would only go to hold at 7,000 feet if you were the only aircraft in the stack. Otherwise you would get put in above other aircraft, and then you would get reduced down, your altitude would get reduced, so you would descend in the hold as people came out of it below you. So yeah, that's the basics of what we're going to do. You can see we're just going overhead Honolly now. The computer is, or the autopilot I should say, is struggling a little bit to capture the inbound course, and that's because we're basically straight overhead now, so it's wiggling its wings back and forwards a little bit, but we're only 3.2 miles from Honolly. Yeah, it's trying to chase the needle a wee bit, so I'm going to just go heading select. So you can see we're only 3.2 miles away, but because we're up at 20,000 feet, it was measuring, the VOR was measuring the vertical distance, so it's never going to go to zero because it's your distance from the actual VOR itself, and we're at 20,000 feet. So that's, you've always got to consider your altitude height as well whenever you're taking readings off VORs. So now we're going outbound towards Soppit, and you will also see that I have got, oops, the routing is on the I was going to call it ND, don't know what it's called in this, that's what it would be called in a Boeing plane, navigational display. So ND, you can see it's going to Tobit, and the rest of the arrival is plotted on there, so it goes Tobit, Soppit, Westcott, Bovington. And so we'll not look at that, we'll not use that, but you'll be able to see that we're doing exactly what the arrival actually is. So yeah, outbound at the minute, we're on heading select. Everything's settled down again now, so I can press the nav button because the active nav is VOR1, and VOR1 has Honolly, which is what we want to track, and we're tracking it outbound on the 140 radial, which we have set here, 140. So I'm going to click the nav button, let the autopilot do the hard work for that. There's only 3 knots of wind I think it was on, but it is real world weather, so hopefully it might change a bit and we might end up a little bit breezier and more challenging conditions, but not at the moment. So how do we know when we're at Tobit? Tobit is 11.1 miles, 11.1 D from Honley VOR. So as you can see here, we're at 10.4 now. So we're almost at Tobit. So after Tobit we're going to descend down to flight level 150. Well, there's 11.1, so we're overhead Tobit. You can see in the nav display exactly the same, just passing overhead there. So let's go down to 150. Let's use vertical speed, and we'll go down to vertical speed of 1,000 feet per minute. So that would be expecting to be at flight level 150 by Soppit. Soppit is 20 miles away from Tobit, so this leg here is 20 miles. We know we are doing just about 3 and a bit miles per minute, 3.5 miles per minute. So that's going to take us around about, what's that, how many times does 3 go into 20? Well, 7, just under 7. So we've got about 6.5 minutes before we get there. We've only got to lose 5,000 feet. So 1,000 feet per minute will do it quite nicely. So we're descending now, we're on our way to Soppit, and we're going to stay on this radial 140 from Honley for the foreseeable future until we get the Westcott. And how are we going to know we're at Westcott? Well, we could have 335 up here like we do on the ADF, and we'll see it swing around. Or we could also have this cross radial, the 117 from Bovington in, and whenever those points meet, so whenever we intercept this radial from Bovington, we'll know that it was time to turn. So I'll leave Honley on for now, and we'll just use the NDB as the point to turn. I have, I believe, got the inbound course 117, and we have on our, let's just change this for a second. Let's go PFD, let's go nav2. Nav2 is Bovington, yeah, Bravo November November. Obviously the flight plan, the nav is giving you all the data here, but we're not going to use that. So we're inbound to Soppit now. Soppit is 31.6 miles from Honley, so we can keep an eye on that. So we're at just under 25, so 25 miles from Honley. So we only have, what, 6 miles to run. What did I say it was? 31.6, yeah, so 5 miles to run. And yeah, so we're coming down nicely. We're going to be a little bit high probably at Soppit. We'll not worry too much about it. If it was in a Boeing or something, we would have a little green arc that would tell us where our vertical speed setting would level. So on this we don't have that, but what we could do is increase our descent rate a little bit, which I've just done. We could also slow down and keep the same descent rate, and that would work out as well. So we're waiting for that 31.6 on the DME, and that means we're at Soppit. And after then we'll descend down to 7,000, which is something kind of similar to what you would do in real life. So 31.6 we've passed. We know we've just passed Soppit, and there it is on the nav display as well. And then we'll keep going down. And we'll keep going down to flight level 70. Should be. We should be on standard technically, because we're above transition, but we'll not worry about that. Okay, it's 7,000. Don't know why that's not going to standard, but. So now we're inbound to Westcott, and what we're looking for now is the ADF needle to switch. We could also have on, so we have nav 1 there. We don't need the DME anymore, so let's put nav 2 on Bovington, and then you will see 117. So whenever this points towards 117, we'll know that the NDB is just about to switch around. We also know that the next leg is 17 miles long, which you can see on the chart there. So whenever this is very close now, so it's just about to switch. So I'm going to preempt it a bit. I'm going to turn the heading bug. I'm going to go heading select. There's the NDB swinging around now. So we don't need that anymore. I'll put that to nav 2. And I actually don't need this either, but I'll put that on nav 2 too, just for backup. And we can also set our active nav to VOR 2, and there's the inbound course. Let's change the heading bug around a little bit more, capture that, and we're only 15 miles from Bovington, so we'll get the descent coming down a bit more, take a bit of power off. And we can select the nav button again, that'll intercept that inbound course, the 117 radial inbound to Bovington. And now we're getting ready for our holding pattern, so we're thinking about how we're going to do that. So we want to be there at 7,000 feet, and we can look at our holding pattern and we can see that it's based on the Bovington VOR. Its right hand turns, our inbound course is 117. So the inbound course is the important one for working out your entry into the holding pattern. Today we're just doing the really basic entry, which is the direct entry. I think there's 3 in total, so we will have a look at those in a future video. They're kind of complicated to get your head around and get used to, but we can definitely have a look at them in other videos. So today we're going to do a direct entry, which means that we're already within, I think it's plus or minus 60 degrees of the inbound course. So we're on 117, the inbound course is 117, which is perfect. We're going to go overhead the Bovington VOR. We're going to make a right hand turn around 180 degrees onto 297, and then we'll start our timer. We'll time for 1 minute, so 60 seconds outbound, and then when our 60 seconds is complete, we'll swing our heading bug around. We'll re-intercept this 117 course, and we'll go overhead the Bovington VOR, and we would keep doing that. So we'll do that as an example. So there's the speed back now to 220 knots, so thereabouts. We're only 7 miles away from the Bovington VOR, so we're coming through 10,000 feet nearly, so we put some landing lights on, and if we had any other checks to do, like pressurization's good, differential pressure's good, cabin altitude should be starting to decrease, but it looks like it's 0 at the minute. So 5 miles to go. And there's a tiny bit of wind on. We'll talk about wind corrections more in another video on holding patterns, but you would put holding pattern, wind corrections on your outbound leg course and the amount of time that you're going outbound to take account for any head or tailwinds that you might have. So let's get our timer ready. 3 miles to go. It's going to work out quite well with our altitude as well. We're just going to be leveling at about 7,000 feet, which it is normally okay to descend in the holding pattern at Heathrow. Other places not so much, but in Heathrow it's perfectly normal. So we're leveling out at 7,000 feet. And you can see on our nav display, we're just coming overhead Bovington as well. And that's that. So we're going to go heading select. We're going to bring our heading, we're going to turn right onto the heading of 297. Going to bring our power up. 210 knots will do quite nicely. And so our VOR needles here for Bovington are up as well. So that's good. We can see where the VOR is in relation to the aircraft all the time, which is what you would want for data hold. So we've gone overhead now, we've done our right hand turn, and what we're looking for now is we're looking to be wings level, and we're looking for the VOR that we went overhead to be 90 degrees off our right hand side. So the autopilot's quite slow in doing this last little bit. Should be a little bit quicker. So we're right, pretty close wings level, 90 degrees off. So we're going to start our timer. So that's our time up. I'll make this chart a bit smaller. All we need at the moment, or all you'll need to see, is the holding pattern. So there it is. So now we're just waiting to get to 1 minute, so we're at 26 seconds. 32 seconds. And you would have wind correction on for this, so let's have a quick look at our wind. So we'll talk about that the next time overhead, but there's only 3 knots, but we'll use it as an example. So there's a minute. Now we're going to bring the heading back around to our inbound course, and we're going to recapture the inbound VOR track, which is 117. And this is a typical holding pattern. 1 minute legs is what you would expect. So now we're keeping an eye on our intercept, or the recapture of this 117. So we can see we're 90 degrees through the turn. We've got about 20 degrees on the indications to go, so it looks like we might need to stop our turn a little bit shallow. So I'll keep the heading for the minute, and then I'll see what it's coming in. Actually coming in very slowly, but it looks like it might work out quite well. Ever so slightly just off. I think by the time the autopilot finishes the heading, it'll be time to go on back on 117 again. Yeah, so that looks pretty good. And if this all works out perfectly, it should be about 3 minutes. By the time, whenever we pass overhead the VOR again, it should be 3 minutes from whenever we started the stopwatch. So I'm not going to chase the needle now because we're very, very close. We're only 2 miles away, but we've also got the altitude, so I'm expecting it's going to go right overhead any second. And we know our time is 3 minutes. And there it goes. So yeah, I'm not going to do another holding pattern. I think I've basically explained roughly what they are. You would keep going around in circles until air traffic control told you to come off, and then you would go in and land. So yeah, that's basically it. I'll do some videos on holding patterns and entries onto them in the future. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was helpful. Any questions, put them in the comments. I'll do my best to answer them. And subscribe for more future tutorials. Cheers.